Welcome, everyone. Welcome to my Thursday night real estate investors hangout. Thank you all for coming tonight. I really appreciate you coming. We are broadcasting live on Google through Webinar Jam, and I'm also broadcasting this live on Periscope. So the Periscope viewers are getting to watch the same thing. We had an open house today at one of our large remodel projects. Oh, hold on, guys. Sorry, you guys didn't hear that, but it was live on Google and I could hear it in my earphones, like with a 30-second delay. So, all right. So anyway, welcome. Thank you for coming. I see Ray joined in the room. If you're coming in later, go ahead and type in your name and then where you're hanging out from, what city you're from. And I have a little poll posted up there so that you can go ahead and tell us how many deals you've done as well, how many wholesale rentals or flips that you've done, or you can just say, click on none, I'm just getting started. So that's kind of how we start the show. And it helps us determine who's in our audience and how much information, we need to give them, starting to the basics or if they have experience. All right, so I'm going to start with just a picture and do a screen share of the property. First, I'm going to introduce David, one of our other partners, and our third partner, Chris, feels very sick, and so he wasn't able to come on the show tonight. So I'm going to bring David on screen. Say, David, say hello and tell us your recent experience with the project. Just introduce yourself, what you've been doing lately.
I don't know what you just said.
Couldn't hear me?
Yeah, but you got all weird, and you sounded like you were talking through an electric microphone thing or something.
Oh, we must have issues with the sound.
For a second. Yeah. So I didn't really catch what you actually said. You said something about introducing myself, I think.
Yes, introduce yourself with your experience.
My name is David Radke. I did a lot of construction in high school, and then I spent the last 3 or 4 years working for a home builder. So I do a lot of work in kind of land development stuff. I deal a lot with city permits, county rules, regulations, requirements, what you can do with this land, when do you get impact fees, which was helpful in this project. So the one that we're about to show you, we added on 498 square feet, because if you put on 500 square feet, you have to start paying school impact fees and a bunch of other fees that get quite large, and they don't show up below 500 square feet, and they do above. So that's the kind of stuff that I kind of spend a lot of time and energy on, and I deal mostly with the banking and then various other things that we just need to take care of, and permit pulls and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. And then just your background in college, what you studied. You kind of skipped that.
Business.
Okay.
Excellent. Yeah, business. Business law, that kind of thing. So.
Okay. And okay, great. I'm going to switch over to screen share. And then I'm not sure where the camera is on your iPad, but if you look into that, that would be better, because it looks like you're looking down at the desk. We love to see you look at us when you're talking. All right. So I always tell my people that before they get on screen, but I forgot to do that. I'm going to start a screen share and I'll show you some pictures. And David's on site in Sacramento, so he has been there as things changed in the house. So he's really good at telling us. Let me pick the pictures here. Exactly, different things that happen. So there's the outside of the house, David. You can just kind of do a monologue and I'll move from picture to picture when you make a pause. How's that?
Oh, okay. Well, there's a little video, but yeah, we can do that. That works fine.
I can't play the video because it won't record on YouTube. I'm just gonna.
That's true. Do you have any of the? Could we by chance go through the originals real quick if you happen to have those on there?
I don't have
pictures. I think we just have like 3 or 4 original pictures.
I can kind of look for those while you do a little bit of this. How's that?
That's fine. I'll talk through it and then you can look for those. I think it's really nice to juxtapose and show those pictures.
Right. These are. We'll go through a couple of the outside ones while I look for those. How's that?
That'll work. So this is what's considered the front. It's a corner lot. You can see in the right-hand corner there. We're going to end up filling that in with that gravel pit there. We're going to put some plants in there. And the reason why we did that corner is it lines up with the planter on the house across the street. They also have a little planter in the corner. So we have two different corners with planters on it. Kind of gives the street a nice little feel to it. As you can see, we tried to keep the trees as much as possible, keep them good, nice sized trees. That's kind of a big thing for that particular area neighborhood, is it has a lot of older trees. And so that's one of the nice things you kind of get when people move into those neighborhoods, when they're not moving into, a new subdivision, is to have kind of full grown adult trees. So you want to be careful. We had to remove some because there was too many and they were overgrowing the house, but you want to keep as many of those as you can. And that was kind of important for us. Keep the shade, keep the trees, keep it kind of nice. And
Okay.
given this issues with water, we decided not to go and lay sod, just because that how California is right now. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So, we watered the grass a little bit to try to green it up, but we're figuring landscaping is one of those things that, if you're talking about profit, you need curb appeal, but you want to be careful with landscaping, because landscaping is one of those things that, first of all, people will have their own opinion what they want to do, and they can do it once they've moved in. They can't repair their kitchen once they're living in the kitchen, because then they can't use their kitchen. Same with the bedrooms, bathrooms, all that kind of work. Interior work you don't really want to do when you're living there. But you can do whatever you want in your landscaping to live in that side of the house. So you really want to spend your money on the inside, and on the outside you want to do just kind of enough to get curb appeal. But don't go overboard in landscaping. You want to be really careful about not doing too much of that.
Okay. So let me tell you that I just found the prior pictures, so I can pull up the prior pictures before we kind of go inside, and that way they'll see what it really looked like when we started.
That would be good. I think that'll give some juxtaposition and make
let me switch back on that. Okay, hold on.
Okay.
Means I have to stop screen share and then re-screen share. All right, here we go. So this is kind of the construction part here. So I can I'll just kind of walk through these. You can talk about the add-on that we did and stuff. So the house is to the left. The house is to the left on this picture.
The right is the garage. Yeah, the
right.
house. So that whole section there is all part of the addition that we ended up putting on.
That shows it a little better. Yeah. I think there was an old porch you tore off though, right?
I think kind of. It wasn't like a full-size porch. There was just a little back area. It was like a slight overhang, little outdoory thing where they had the washer and dryer.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't really. Yeah. It was like a stoop.
Yeah. So this is how close we brought the house to the side of the garage. We just have a walkway there. And that middle part here are the steps as you come out of the kitchen.
Right.
So that's the back of the house. That's the original.
Right. Exactly.
Now they have the.
You've got a lot of the pictures of the back. Yeah, I don't think this doesn't. I think this set of pictures might not include the front, which is really what I was hoping we could show us on the front. We had a little too many trees on there originally.
Oh, yeah. You can see the inside. We can go to the inside.
Yeah, you can see we really. So it's everything on the inside over there to the right. We tried to keep that original. We tried to not lose any of that. So that was one of the things we ended up doing. So we'll see when we see the pictures later. All of that stayed.
Right. We kept the original shelves and the fireplace and the seating area. Right. So we took out all the ducting. I mean, it has lath and plaster. So we took all the way back to the studs.
Yep. Yep. Most of us went all the way back to the studs.
So
yeah, you can see the lath and plaster.
Yeah.
Right there.
On that one. Yeah.
Meant to get rid of.
Right here.
And because we went back to the studs, there was a lot we could do with it. So the house now is quieter. Even if we had just replaced the windows, it would never be as quiet as it is now, except for we went all the way back to the studs and put in some new insulation and really redid it. And it wasn't. So, and that's important because we're on a somewhat busy street.
Right.
There's a train track not right there, but there's a train tracks a couple of houses over, and you can hear it. The neighbors have told us they can hear the street that we're on, and you can't hear it when you're in the house.
And so here's this. Oh, go ahead. Here's this original bench that we kept too.
And that's also got some storage underneath it, which is nice. It's a really cool little feature to keep on there.
Yeah. And this is the back once it's built out.
Right, it's starting to get built out.
Like 4 skylights, right, in the whole house.
Yep.
2 in the kitchen and 2 in the master bedroom. Master bath. So this is a
2
view
in
of the master bath.
2 in the kitchen.
Right.
2 of them, 3 of them are automated, and 1 of them is manual. We
Right.
actually only ordered 2 manuals. We got lucky. Someone accidentally sent us an extra automated one, which are a lot more expensive. So
right. We can always prove to people, yes, they are all brand new windows. There you go.
Yep.
New
And
electric box.
the windows weren't cheap because this particular house in that neighborhood, what's called a design review requirement, meaning there's a guy in the city that has to review any external design changes, not like color and stuff, but anything like windows and stuff. So we had to stick to the same window style and design as there was previously on there. We couldn't do modern, newer looking windows. We had to have windows that match the old style because the city requires it. And that's actually part of what made the property take so long. Is design review is done by one guy in the city right now. So there's only one design review guy for the whole city.
Okay.
And that was one of the items that actually kind of drove up our timetable.
Here's kind of what it looked like. I don't know if there were any trees there, but we'd already trimmed the trees. It was pretty overgrown in the front.
There was a tree in front of that front window on the left-hand side. You're looking at right there. There was a tree there. If you look at the ground, you can kind of see.
Oh,
so
right here.
Tree growing out of the house. We cut that off.
I think there was one over here too, wasn't there? Really, really close to the foundation.
Yeah, there was a lot.
In some of these older houses, like a weed starts growing and then they just let it grow up into a tree, and it's not good for the foundation.
Yeah. Yeah, so you can see that this thing has gone through a lot of evolutions here in pictures that we have now.
Here's where we started putting in the tub, and
yeah, it's too bad we don't have those really earliest pictures from when we purchased it, but it still gives you a pretty good idea of the amount. You can see the line there between where we started the new and the old.
This is the old part of the house with the floorboards, and this is the new part going into the master bath.
Right. Yep.
Kitchen. That's what the kitchen looked like before we got started. And now that's the addition with the garage right there. The addition on the left, garage on the right.
Yep.
And so this whole section here was added on.
Fencing, and we did that. Fencing has been changed now too. So
yeah,
that was the original old fencing. That you can see that, and you'll see in the later pictures that garage door has also been changed out.
Right, and this is just the neighborhood I wanted people to see.
And that's the thing you can see on this picture. You see that little planter in the corner there. They've got this little planter set up on that corner with some trees, with some shrubs, bushes in it, or plants or flowers or whatever. So we're trying to match that on ours. That's one of those things we're doing to kind of get that community feel.
Right, but this is not a subdivision. It's everyone bought a lot and built a house with their own design. So it's that.
As a matter of fact, the neighbor actually came over and told me that she had the house since 1920 or something, and that she knew the original guy that built that house in the 30s, and she's the only one that's seen it from its a heyday original setup.
Oh, okay. So that's the
interesting conversation to have.
These are all on the street, and I'm just showing people. Okay, that's the last one. So I can go back now to our finished pictures.
Yeah.
And do that.
Yep.
And then you can tell us about, tell us about, what things we put in, what we decided not to do, and things like that, how you made choices.
Right. So like where you're looking at right now, we were planning on to the right of that sidewalk there, we were planning on putting a little a lamp post, but
right
we
here.
decided that at the extra effort of running the electrical line there and putting the lamp post in, we're kind of at the end of the budget. And that's sort of another one of those, it's one of those items that's very much a personal taste thing, and I would hate to waste the money putting one in and having someone take it out later, so we decided not to do that.
Right. And
then you can see a little pathway there. We did decomposed granite with what are those
right here.
stones? Stones. Yeah. So there's decomposed granite, and we compacted it down and wetted it, and then we put a bunch of stepping stones in between and kind of made a little walkway pathway there. So that's
cool. Nice. Yeah.
And then with the front door, so we kept the original railing, repainted it.
Right.
And with the front door, instead of painting, we stained it. And then when we had to repair that under awning there, we also were staining that too. So you kind of keep that wood stain look. That way, it pops a little bit different from the rest of it. And in some ways, it's a little cheaper and easier just to stain it than paint it.
Yeah.
You don't have to tape it up as much. So that was kind of a cost savings, but also gives it kind of a nice, different feel, a little pop to it.
Okay. It's from the corner. Oh, I see. You started to landscape it, but there's no plants in there yet.
Right. We're actually picking some up. So we've landscaped it. We still have to put the plants in.
Right, and that matches the corner across the street.
Exactly. So we wanted to kind of get a little matching feel and make it feel kind of nice to the area. And then one of the things we've done is we've bought the sign you see. We paid to rent the post, but the main sign that you see hanging, we bought those. So we have like 3 of those we made ourselves.
Oh,
And
good.
they're a little bit sturdier and heavier duty than the kind of the regular ones. They cost us maybe $60. You do that one time, and now you have your own kind of logo. We went to a sign company. I think it was Signs by Tomorrow or whatever. And it's nice to have. We keep 2 or 3. That way, we always have ones for the properties when we need them. We have 2 or 3 open house signs we keep in the garage, and that way we're kind of set up and use them. And especially since we don't really use agents.
Right.
And that's one of the ways we save money is we don't have our own agent. We list it ourselves. So by having those signs and stuff, we're kind of prepared, but it still gives it that look like it's being repped by an agent, and that it impacts some people a certain way. So we want to make
definitely.
So yeah, it's nice that we don't have a FSBO sign, so people don't come over thinking they can offer stupid offers. And,
right.
It gets rid of some of the tire kickers. So this is the garage. One of the things we did in Land Park, it's really common in that area for people to turn their garages into offices or houses or do all kinds of other stuff with them. So we painted the walls and we put recessed lighting into the garage. And then you can't see it yet because of all the covering, but we're doing a epoxy paint of the floor. That way it's sort of a finished space. It's not really set up, but if you wanted to put an air conditioning and some furniture and an extra light plug in there, it'd be really easy to do. So it wouldn't be hard to convert it to an office or something else. And we kept the storage shelves in the back. This is actually one of the items that kind of pushed our budget up a bit because we'd forgotten about the need to re-roof. So the roof on the garage was fine. The problem is once we re-roofed the house with a brand new roof, the garage roof looked really weird.
Right.
So then we had to re-roof the garage. And we weren't intending on, and it wasn't in our original bids to do that. And we didn't need a new roof. But once you finished the house, you looked at the garage, and it was very obvious the garage was a different date. And it really stood out in a negative way. So we ended up having to do that. And that's kind of one of those things where it's not required. The roof is only like 10 years old. You can do 15 or 20 years. But, you don't want something like that standing out. So now we can tell everyone, don't worry, your roof on the garage and the house are both brand new and you're good for 20 years.
Right, exactly. And that's something Bruce Norris has always said, that if you fix it, don't keep old stuff because it looks okay when you first get the house, but once you put new stuff in, the stuff you kept that's only a few years old looks terrible.
And that's some of the feedback we got from other people that come through is very common in this Land Park area. People will do rehabs and they'll keep a lot of the old stuff, and you'll get like this 50-50 match of old or new. Or people will like just redo their kitchen and then try to sell the house and it'll look weird. And so, and again, so this is the landscaping and what is kind of the backyard. So we took out some trees in the backyard. It was kind of full of trees. And then we also we leveled the backyard because that whole area where you see the trees was bumped up and it was full of trees and stuff. So we leveled it out, and then we put in, again, we're California, so we're kind of drought tolerant. We got to be aware of that issue. So we went with kind of an all rock and gravel backyard, but we got some differing colors. So we were able to make it not look ugly, but we didn't put anything in there that required a lot of water. And we were able to keep 2 of the trees for shade to keep it kind of nice.
Yeah, so, and I like that crushed granite look, and that's good. Yeah. It's crushed granite. It's pushed in, so it's kind of flat. So
right. It's crushed granite. You tamp it in a little bit. You put water on it, and it kind of flattens out. You got the stairs there, and the entrance, and the windows.
And tell them where these stairs come out from the living room, basically. Yeah.
Right. They come out from the entrance hallway living room space, and you'll see that in a minute when we go in. So over the end of this living room and to the left, that's where
we were. Right. This door is is the same as this door.
Right.
Yeah.
And as you can see on the left-hand side, we kept the fireplace and we kept all that built-in shelving
And this
because,
and this.
yeah, and that's because in that neighborhood, that's people buy in that neighborhood to buy a 1920s house to some degree. I mean, they like the modern features, but you want to keep some of that old craftsman-y stuff that you
Mm-hmm.
just don't get in the new house, that you don't get in a subdivision, and that's part of the appeal.
Absolutely.
So you don't want to lose that.
Yep, absolutely. That looks good. Now tell us. There's.
Actually, it's funny. A neighbor came over. They even asked us if we put in that stove there in the fireplace.
Oh,
People asked us if we bought that and put that in, and we said no, that came with the house.
yeah, and it's a wood burning, right?
Yeah, but it looks like something you might have. It looks retro enough. It looks like something you might have bought to kind of be chic.
Older. Yeah, it looks older. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. But
Okay.
it was part of the house.
Well, now, and we did make the decision to stage it. Tell us a little bit about how you decided which stager to go with,
Right.
because I didn't
Well,
interview them.
so we don't normally stage. We have a few pieces of furniture that and like a couple pieces of artwork that we just slap up in a normal house. And when you're sub 300, it's not a big deal. You put two pieces, we have like two couches. They're ugly, but you throw the couch in, you throw a card table up, and you put like two pictures up, and that's enough just to make it not feel empty.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a nicer home in a nicer neighborhood, and because of the cost of add-ons and carrying costs, and because we are a little over budget due to um, the garage and a couple other changes we had to make and some change orders, and it took a little longer than we were hoping. We're really trying to get a nice price point on it, and one of the things you can do to do that is to stage it. And in particular for us, is this room that we're looking at here was difficult when it was empty to really visualize what it would look like or how you would set it up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really glad that the way it got done, because I had a hard time thinking of what I would do with it personally. So
Right.
those are the kind of things that kind of drove us to the stager. We really wanted to sell it fast. We wanted to get a full price point. And the other thing about it too is the nice thing about a stager, on a lower end home, if there's little mistakes here and there or little things off in the house because it's older, so like these older homes, they're never perfectly even, and you
Mm-hmm.
can't see that when it's full of stuff and it's staged. But when it's empty, you can see where things are a little uneven, and it
Right.
throws things off. You can, and we're also still finishing up a couple construction details. So if you look at the door, you can see we haven't put the deadbolt in. So
Oh,
little details like that
right.
distract you when the room is empty, but when there's other stuff in, then they don't really draw the eye. So that's kind of a combined reason why we went with the stager. As for who we chose, I used a program called Thumbtack to bid out to about 8 people, and I got some rough bids. I took the kind of a 3 best price rough bids, more or less, and had a conversation with them. And so several of the stagers would only do a 90-day staging. I rejected those people outright because I know this neighborhood. If we don't get a good price in the first 2 to 3 weeks, we should probably drop price. And even then, this is a very high demand neighborhood. A lot of houses here are bought off the MLS the first day they're listed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's not a lot of stuff inventory sits around here. I walked open houses for the last 6 months. I seldom walk the same house 2 weeks in a row,
Right.
ever.
It's already under contract by the time you get
Right.
back. Yeah.
So I don't want a 90-day. So the two I found that I liked, one lady would do the first month was one price, and then she would go month to month or even weekly after that. Um, and she was the cheapest. She was gonna be $1,200 to stage the property. Another thing we did to save cost here is we decided not to stage the two smaller bedrooms and the Jack and Jill. We didn't think it was
Mm-hmm.
really necessary,
Yeah.
especially because you could make any of those rooms either a bedroom, or we wanted to leave it open for what you wanted to do with it. And you really want to. It's the big spaces. So, but we looked at what she did, and she was good. And then this lady was more expensive, but she would split. So she would go month to month after the first month, not weekly, but month to month, which is fine. But what she was willing to do is she was willing to split. She was willing to charge us half of the cost up front, and then the other half as well as the monthly rent at close. So that was a big
Mm-hmm.
deal, and that made her
Yeah.
kind of, in our minds, competitive with the woman who was willing to do the lower price. because we're more
Yeah.
worried about what's out of my pocket right now. Once closing happens, I'm a little less worried about it. But
Mm-hmm.
also her design style was a little different. The other lady had a lot of kind of contemporary normal furniture, and this individual had a
Right.
lot of
I
kind of retro. And even though we've done a modern style for the house, we kept a lot of the retro 1920s, 30s cues. Like if you look at
this
the hallway entrance, our baseboards the baseboards at the bottom
right.
are very and the roof boarding is very wide. We do the wide
Mm-hmm.
entrance door.
The
Yeah, see
crown
up there,
molding
very
and this paneling.
is wide. We kept
Mm-hmm.
some of the built-in shelving, so we kept a lot of those features. So something kind of retro like this, where she has some items that she put a record player in, and you look at that cool Magnavox radio. So she had some stuff
Yeah.
like that
So
was.
there's the radio and then this record player here in the corner. I like both of them. I noticed both of those items right away when I looked at the open
And they
house.
both work, and we were able to actually play music on them at the open house, which is cool.
Wow. Okay.
She did some retro stuff. She did some more kind of um, she did sort of like the modern design, but modern and retro. And the other
Mm-hmm.
lady was kind of contemporary, and it just didn't. Her style fit the house better. So
Yeah.
we ultimately decided, even though she's more expensive, she wasn't going to cost us more up front on cash flow. So we were willing to go with it and kind of eat the price at the sale point later, because we think it fits better with what we designed the rest of the house.
Right. And I like the fact that she uses these see-through metal chairs because it makes the room look more open and not closed in.
Right.
It's a really
Right.
good
Stuff like
choice.
so. She does a lot of
Oops.
cool little stuff, and she likes to do a lot of live plants. So
Sorry.
they got to get watered occasionally. If you can see in there, she does a lot of flowers. She comes by and replaces them every 2 weeks or so.
Oh, nice, nice. All right. Well, let's move on to, I think coming up is a bathroom.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is the second full bathroom. So the master suite has a full bathroom. We have another full bathroom, and then we have a small half bath, a Jack and Jill half bath between the other two bedrooms. So the vanities in all bathrooms, we did with teak vanities in both bathrooms, heavy duty, sturdy stuff. Um, the tile you can't really see in here, but it's wave tile, so it's got a kind of a cool wavy texture to it. I guess maybe you can kind of see it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's a cool wavy texture. And the nice thing about the flooring, so what we did with the tile in the kitchen and the bathrooms is we went with, if you go back a step there, Mom.
All right.
Go back a step there. Go back there. If you look at the tile, it looks like wood. It's not. That's tile. But it's the tile wood. It's the tile that's designed to look like wood.
Oh, yeah.
We
Yeah.
think that touch. And the nice thing we did with the bathroom is we went with some of the nicer, newer toilets where you just wave your hand over the top. So you don't have to touch the toilet in any way to get it to flush. You just wave your hand and it flushes.
Cool. All right.
That's
Next
cool.
coming up is the master bedroom.
It's the master bedroom. It's just one of the other areas we wanted to stage. We went with instead of going with a king size bed, we went with a queen size because it fits the room a little better.
Mm-hmm. Makes the
So
room
it
look
makes the room
bigger.
not,
Yeah.
right. And then you can see the fan, the roof, and then again recessed lighting throughout. So we like to do the recessed lighting everywhere. Most of the other houses in this neighborhood, in this area, due to the how old they are, they got plug-in lamps all throughout the whole house. There's no built-in lighting through most of the houses.
Right. Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Maybe in the kitchen, that's it. It's just not a lot of built-in lighting. So when everyone comes over, they really like all the recessed lighting. And a recessed lighting is really hard to put in unless you're tearing out all the old electrical, because you got a lot of old electrical. Some of it's even aluminum from World War
Mm-hmm.
II. I mean, so you can't do what we did to the house in terms of lighting if you don't redo almost the entire electrical system, and we did. So we put up new panels and everything, and that's kind of allowed us to do things you can't do in this neighborhood, which really makes it stand out.
Yeah. So here's another tip, guys. And I've heard this from other rehabbers. When a woman walks in the house, they look at the master bedroom and they try to visualize how their furniture from their bedroom is going to fit in that bedroom. And if your master bedroom is too small, that woman's never buying the house. And that's one of the main things they look at besides the kitchen and the bathroom, is they try
Which
to
is one
make
of the reasons why that was the main room we staged.
right.
We saved the living room and we saved the bedroom because those two rooms we figured in the kids' room or the office or whatever you make those other two rooms into, you can throw your furniture out and buy new furniture. But the furniture you have for your personal bedroom and the furniture you keep in the living room, you're probably not going to move into a house that you can't visualize it in. So
Mm-hmm.
we
All right,
figured that
now
made.
we're going to move into the bathroom here.
Yeah.
See it?
Yep. And again, big teak vanity,
Mm-hmm.
solid, heavy, nice teak vanity. Same flooring. We went with that what I think is a really cool kind of wood tiling floor, or it's tile, but it looks like wood. And then instead of having the full, we have a partially recessed sink instead of the fully under-recessed sink that you had in the other bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Keep going. I think there's more pictures of it here. And then, as you can see, we
Yeah.
did subway tile the walls, and where the showers, we did all the way to the roof. The glass that's going to go around that shower has not
There's
gone
the
in yet
vanity.
because of an issue with the glass guy. But yeah, as you can see, we
Right.
do this with
So guys, it's not an open shower. There is going to be a glass door there all around it.
right. Yeah, at some point.
And
But
then the tub. Talk about the tub there. That's nice.
yeah, the top. You know, the nice thing we got about that one is we had an open house and a lot of the agents came through, and a lot of the women looked at that tub and said, "Oh, I could really take a bath in there every day because it's a high back. You can put your head back, you can lean back, but you
Mm-hmm.
could really get all the way in the tub, and you could have the water up to a pretty good height,
Right.
which
It's a soaking tub.
usually right. And so we've got a real soaking tub in there and it still looks cool and elegant. So, and
And
we
it
did the
has
barn
this.
door. Now, the thing about the barn door is we were thinking about putting it on the other side, but then it kind of takes up some space in the master bedroom and potentially would hit your bed if you put it far in the corner. So we
Uh-huh.
wanted to put it on the inside. And this way, too, you can go into the bathroom, you can get in the tub, and then close the door.
Yeah.
And if it was on the other side, you couldn't do that. You couldn't close the door from inside the bathroom very easily.
Right. So from the
So,
master, and it doesn't. That way, the master can have paintings on the wall, and it doesn't take up space on that master wall, because the door would have
that's
been right
exactly right.
here.
And as you can see, again, this one also has those same overhead uh, skylights, and those are again mechanically. Those you can open those for a breeze in the summer or whatever you want to do. And that's the master closet at the end of the bathroom,
Right. It's
which I
straight.
actually kind of
Oh
like.
wait,
I don't
I'm
really
trying to
want to
find
walk the bathroom wet into a closet that's in the bedroom. So this way, when you finish your shower or whatever you're doing, you can go right into the
it.
walk-in
Right.
closet,
There it is.
get your clothes. Right, so
There.
it's back in the
Yeah.
back corner there.
Yeah.
So you don't have to kind of walk. You don't have to leave the bathroom and walk around the house or walk around your bedroom all wet or whatever. You can, be
It's
in
a
the
good
bathroom, go
design.
right and get.
Good
I
design.
think so.
Okay.
You don't see it a lot, but I like it.
We're going to move into the dining room here.
Right. So this is the dining room. When we first put that light in, I was a little uncomfortable with it, but we raised it up a little bit, and so it doesn't feel. It got a good feel to it. Um, and since we don't have very high ceilings, it's nice to have kind of an open light like that doesn't, fill up the space too much.
Right. So in the older part of the house, the ceilings are this level. In the new part, we have open ceilings.
And we consider
Right.
raising the ceilings in the older part, but to do that, we'd have had to add trusses
Yeah.
in. We could have done that, but it would have been pricey to take out the ceiling like that, and we ultimately decided it just wasn't worth the cost
Right.
just to give vaulted ceilings throughout the house.
Right. And here's the other view. There we go.
And so we put in a full kind of wine wet bar. The honest truth is that this neighborhood, um, it's older couples a lot, but anyone that's buying it new, it's usually younger professionals. So we figured the house is, small kids and entertaining, probably
Mm-hmm.
more than it is a formal dining room.
Right.
The
Entertaining.
formal dining setting isn't probably hugely important, but a wine bar, and you can't see it very well from this angle. You can see the wine rack at the top, and
Right.
we also were a little
Cooler.
concerned that the
Wine
way the
cooler.
kitchen was set up, yeah, there's a wine chiller there, which is nice. We're also concerned that the kitchen wasn't didn't have enough overhead storage as we would have liked.
Right.
So it was nice to have another spot to add that in. And this room in particular, you can't see the countertop very well, but we went with a marble that has a really dark grain to it. So we get kind of a light and dark. And again, you see we have more of that subway tile on the back there, which we really like. And we decided to go kind of dark with the wood and dark with the floor, but light with all the rest of the color. So
Mm-hmm.
we kind of wanted to stand out a little more.
And that full bath we saw earlier is right down here in this hallway. It's right across from this is the living room here, and then that's the full bath, and then that's the entrance to one of the bedrooms.
Now, if you look at that closet down that hallway there, that's actually, it looks built in because we put crown molding at the top.
Right.
But that's actually just a set of cabinets that we ordered.
Standalone cabinets.
Yeah, just standard set of cabinets we ordered along with the kitchen cabinets. We ordered it to fit in that size space.
Great.
And before there was nothing there. There was just sort of this kind of funky little, you come out of one door and it goes into this like dented in hallway for no purpose and nothing was there. So we kind of made use of that space and wiggled it and kind of fit an extra kind of pantry, or no, well, to fit a laundry closet in there. A linen closet, sorry.
Okay, so now we're going to kind of go down this hallway to, I'm not sure which bedrooms in which order, but I think it's one of the bedrooms.
Okay, so this is the first bedroom when you come through the main door down the
here it is.
Hallway.
There we go.
This is the one that if you came down the hallway, this is the bedroom that you'd turn into.
If we came down the hallway, we would go down and we'd go right into there. I'm just giving people kind of a way to walk through it. Yeah.
Right.
So I love the style of the door.
A big part of what we ended up doing really is a lot of these older homes are funky. Sometimes they've been reworked on a few times. They very seldom have a reasonable walkable layout. A lot of times the room dead ends and there's only one way in and out of the room, or they're just funky. So a large part of what we did when we added on the addition, but also when we went back to the studs, was to, the living room had this weird recess in the wall that served no purpose. We got rid of that, made more closet space. So we really just redesigned the layout for that kind of a modern, a more usable layout than is common in this neighborhood, which is nice to have as well.
You also, you just change the flow of the whole thing of being in the house.
Right.
It flows different.
Another thing we were doing is you can see that bathroom right there, that little half bath Jack and Jill. And before that was a central heating and air unit was sitting there. And there's two doors there, and you had to you could barely get around the central heating and air unit to get through the doors. I think we actually adjusted the location of the doors slightly so that we could fit a toilet and a sink and a full bathroom, a half bath in there. So we were able to make that fit nicely.
There's a sink, yeah.
Yeah, so that's from the other angle. And that closet is also about a foot deeper and larger than it was originally as well.
Yeah, because you said you took the closet the indentation that was in the living room and moved it into this closet.
Right. And then I think the closet was also moved over to the left slightly, because that way we made enough room for that linen closet, because it had also been slightly more to the right before as well.
Right.
And that door that comes out, the
linen closet's right here.
Right. Yeah. And that entrance on the right-hand side that as you come out of the dining room into this hallway from is also enlarged. So we made that bigger as well. That was a smaller entranceway before. So we did a lot of changes when we went back to the studs. We really changed the whole property. Right.
Because originally this was a 3-1 and now it's a 3-2.5.
Right. So it's a big change in terms of usable space.
So here's the front corner bedroom.
And if you look at the windows, part of the reason why the windows seem like, wow, why didn't you make the windows the same size? You're not allowed to. That and the style of the window and the size of the window, we had to keep those. If we were in a newer house, instead of having 3 windows there on that right-hand side, you'd probably have one big giant window with a slider or something. We can't do that. We had to stick to the original style, which made the windows more expensive to buy. It's not easy to find windows that fit in these old frames, or like the one on the right-hand side, you can see the cross piece there. It's not easy to find those kind of windows with dual pane, modern, fully insulated windows. It's hard to do.
And that was required by the design review, right?
Right. They wouldn't have signed off on design review. So like that window there, we couldn't make the window on the left-hand side taller, and to match the window on the right-hand side, it had to stay. This is considered a somewhat historic, not quite historical, but it's a historical neighborhood, historical area. And the design review won't approve of things that they're picky. So, and that was one of the things we did too, purposely. If you look at the door handles, we kind of kept that square old brass look. Everything else is kind of chrome or steel, but we wanted to keep some touches that felt older. So we went with a square brushed nickel sort of look, just to give it kind of an older, heavy feel. And another thing we did, which was big on this house, you don't see in a lot of houses, but all the doors are solid core. So
Nice. Oh,
all
that's
the doors
nice.
throughout are solid core, which really helps with noise mitigation, but it also helps give the house a really sturdy, heavy duty feel. And it gives you that solid, it gives you a weighty feeling that you kind of like when you spend the kind of money we're asking you to spend on this property. You don't want
Right.
it to feel
Right.
flimsy or light. You want it to feel heavy, sturdy. You want it to feel like it's going to last forever. And those doors are solid, and they really do help. If you close one room, you can have a conversation, and there's not much sound propagation just because of those solid core doors. They make a big difference.
Oh, okay. Great. Great. Yeah, I love the way the doors look. We're gonna move into the kitchen. Here we go.
Yep.
This is looking from the dining room towards the back door. And
So
this
as
is
you
all, this is part of the addition, you can tell, because the roof is raised and it has the skylights.
Right. So as you can see in the kitchen, there are recessed lights in the kitchen, but we also have some hanging lamps as well. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of light in there, and there's also windows and skylights. So we really want the kitchen to be bright and light. And we looked at trying to do an island, but there just wasn't enough space. So
Yeah.
what we left by having that big open area is you can kind of put a movable island in there if you want, but it gives the kitchen a really big open feel with the high ceilings. And
Hmm.
then again, we did that subway tile on the right over there, and it goes
Yeah.
all the way to the roof. And so you've got subway tile all the way to the roof. It
Oh,
really gives it a feel to the
where's the
right hand
subway?
side.
Oh, up here above the windows is subway tile.
Yep,
That's cool.
all the way to the ceiling.
Yeah.
And then you see the sink is a farm sink.
Oh, yeah. The sink. Yeah. Oh,
The farm
yeah.
sink.
And the handles give it that older look too.
Right, we went with that. We wanted the handles to come very close to matching kind of the darker color from the door. Everything else is light and it's steel, and we wanted the handles to kind of offset that and be a little darker, and to match the door handles and so forth.
And there's
Kind
another
of
thing.
older style.
Another thing I like that I wasn't sure about when Chris had selected gray for the cabinets, because I hadn't really been in a house that had gray cabinets. And once I saw the pictures, I realized how well that blended with stainless steel. And it just looks like one complete piece.
Yeah, and so one of the things you'll notice is that the microwave looks a little off right now. That's because the trim kit hasn't been put on yet. There's
Mm,
a stainless steel trim kit that goes with that microwave that kind of matches up or that'll go around it and match up with the oven. But if you
right.
can see on there again, we
That's
did the
sort of
subway tile again on the side with the oven, and it goes all the way up.
right. And then you have the nice
So you
hood
don't
he ordered.
right. And when you see it, there'll be a pullback picture. The hood goes all the way up to the ceiling. It was 11-foot high ceiling, so it's a tall hood.
There we go. That one?
Yeah. Yep. I think there might be even one farther back so you can kind of see the roof line. Is there one to see the roof line?
Well, from the other side, yeah. But not for looking at the oven. That's the one that's the furthest back.
Okay, well you can't see it, but that's the roof line actually goes up from there. So that range goes all the way up to the ceiling.
Mm-hmm. And that's another thing to mention. You see the refrigerator spot on the left there. In all the houses that we flipped, we don't put in a fridge, and people can just bring their own because it's not required. You have to have a stove and you have to have heating, but you do not have to have a fridge. That's not required in a structure, in a property. And so you can just leave it out and someone can come in and spend however many grand they want to put in their own fridge.
Right, you want to put in one that's not nice enough or too nice. So
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to strike that balance with a fridge. And plenty of people move with their fridge anyways.
Right.
And so the sink too, we went with that farmyard style sink.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a really cool look. And again, it makes it feel heavy. It's heavy duty.
Right.
It's a deep, heavy sink. And again, look at the windows. You couldn't make those bigger. Those are the required. We had to
Yeah.
stick with that style of window because of the design review. But I still think they look pretty good.
They
But as
do.
you, not a ton of overhead cabinet space between those two cabinets. So that's a reason it's really nice to have that other set of cabinetry over in the
Dining room.
right.
Got it. Okay.
As to style wise, kind of what we did is we looked at a lot of things we liked, and then we called the manufacturer up and the wholesalers and said, okay, I kind of like this. Are you selling a lot of it? Okay, what's the trend? Are you trending up? Have you had a growth in sales of this product over the last 6 months? How much so? Have you had a growth in what color? So we like the farmyard sink. Great. What color have you sold the most of in the last 6 months? Is it
Mm.
what's trending? Are you selling more of this color or that color? So we kind of tracked a lot of what was trending, not just what are you selling a lot of, because they'll bullshit you. So you want to kind of, if you can, okay, how many did you sell 6 months ago? How many more are you sold now? Is there any other product that you sell more of than this? Is there a slightly different style that you sell more of by volume? So we looked at things that we liked and what we wanted, and then we kind of said, okay, that's great. We like this. We want this. But how can we go past that? What can we go to what's being bought the most now? What's trending up? What do we think is cool that has been an increase? It's been increasing in its sales for the last 12 months. And then we took that, and then we kind of went, okay, that was kind of how we modified it. And then we did, okay, there's some things we want to do. Let's see if we can find the cheapest thing. So like we wanted to do the really high tile ceiling, and we knew we wanted to be light. So we went to a couple tile places, and we tried to figure out what tile fit that requirement, but was also cheap.
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
we had an idea of what we wanted. We found out what was selling the most volume. Oh, light tile on walls is big right now. Great. Okay. What's the cheapest one we can find? Oh, beveled subway is 50 cents less than unbeveled. We'll go with that.
Okay.
So there's a bit of a process to it, and you don't do that with every item. Some items, you don't skimp on, but some you can kind of go, okay, there's two different kinds of, there's several types of wood style tile. Okay, cool. We like wood style tile. We think that's a really cool style. We want to do a light colored one. Which brand is the cheapest light colored wood style tile? So you kind of find where you want to be at and what you want it to look like. You find out what's selling a lot of volume to make sure that your taste is lining with what you want to see nowadays. And then you kind of bring the pieces all together and make sure the coloring makes sense together. And then you try to find, where can I get the best deal on what's closest to my goal? And if it's not
Mm-hmm.
exactly there, a lot of you can buy a few bucks on it. Mind you, some of the stuff like the appliances, you really got to land it. So a good example of that is, if you look at next to the sink there is a little pullout that's for trash. We were going to do a trash compactor. But we started looking, and since trash compactors haven't been selling in big volumes, for whatever reason, they've been jacking up the prices. It was $1,000.
Wow.
Is $1,000. I think $700 is the cheapest one, but to match our stove and our oven, to be high enough and to match the decor, we'd have to spend about $1,000. We really thought a trash compactor is not. It's not an ad value. $1,000 is not an ad value. So we went to the cabinet lady and ordered a fill-in cabinet that had a trash pull-out, and that's $300. I think you're making the same. I don't think a buyer will notice significantly, but it's that's an extra $700 that we didn't have to spend.
Right. Right.
And it's not going to make a big difference for the buyer. I remember walking out and thought, oh, they only have a trash can, trash bagger. I don't want this. It's a feature, but it's not really hugely important. So if you're going to skimp, don't skimp on the stove.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Don't
Absolutely.
skimp on the
Yeah.
oven.
Right.
Spend the money on those. But when it comes to the tile, there are 3 or 4 different white shiny tile types you can get, and one of them is going to be 50 cents a square foot cheaper. You probably want to go with that one. So you can find stuff that looks almost identical, looks a little bit different, and then judge the price point.
Well, your voice is cutting out a little there. Maybe it's your signal.
Deal on the tile. And we actually kind of overbought a little bit. So we actually have subway tile to do another project or two after this, but we wanted to make sure we had enough for this one with the high ceilings.
Okay.
And it was so cheap and we liked the look so much, we just figured, you know, oh well, we got some extra now. So
All right. Now, we had an open house there today. Can you give us kind of a little, maybe we'll save next week and go over the numbers, but this week, since we just had that open house for realtors, maybe you can tell us people's reaction. How did you set up the open house? I know we didn't have to pay anything to market it. How did you do that?
Right. Well, so one of the things I found that works out really well is it's nice to work with lenders. So usually your typical loan officer lender from a bank or something like that, they'll do open houses with an agent. But that means that when someone comes in the house, the agent talks first, the loan officer talks second. So I found a lot of loan officers are very willing or interested in doing open houses for you. And they're not as convenient or as available. Your agent will do one every Saturday, every Sunday, and they're going to get it done. If you go with a loan officer, you're going to have to do half the open houses yourself, but they will do some of them for you. And they'll do it on the hopes of getting the loan.
Right.
And here, the thing for them that's great is, unlike your listing agent wants to sell this house, so they're doing the open house to sell this one. Your loan officer doesn't care. They're doing the open house to sell loans, period. So they'll come in and do open houses for you free of charge, so you don't have to be there every other weekend. So like this weekend, my friend Dana is a loan officer. He will be there doing an open house for half the day. I think he's doing all the days Sunday and half the day Saturday. And another loan officer he knows, he'd ask her if she'd do half the day on Saturday, and she said sure because she lives down the street. So she's going to come in. I think his assistant's going to help him set up. And depending on the loan officer, depending on how well you know them, depending on the rules from the organization they're with, they can even do marketing materials for you. So
okay.
In our case, we've got an agreement with Dana. He works for Umpqua Bank. And so he's paying for, I want to say 50%, I think, of the cost of, printing out and handing out flyers around the neighborhood, as long as they're flyers that include rates for mortgages, which is what his include, and his name on it. So I don't have to print the flyers. I don't have to hand them out. I can do I don't have to do a lot of those things like that because I'm working with someone where he's trying to drum up business, and his attempt, it's not, the flyers aren't as good as the ones I'd make myself. I'd probably make a few myself that would keep at the open house, but the ones that get handed out to the neighborhood and stuff, it's nice. It's really nice. I'd recommend, if you're going to try to do some of these, I'd recommend working with loan officers as a great way of, it's a great way of getting marketing done without spending the money you would on an agent. Because an agent's going to be all commission. It's going to come from you. When the loan officer does it, if they get the last deal, Dana got a deal. I think he makes, he makes like 1 or 2 points or something. I don't actually know, but he makes a point or two off the loan. So he made money off the last project. He's very happy about it. He might have even got 1 or 2 additional leads and closed other loans, even if it wasn't for our house. And he's happy to go there and do that and market, but it doesn't come out of my pocket at the end of the day, which is nice. If I have if I have an agent there, and they're going to do more marketing if you have a good agent than a loan officer, but it's going to be 1.5, 2 points on the whole house cost from my pocket as the seller. Whereas with the loan officer, it's a point and a half on the loan, and I never see it, and it's rolled into the loan, and it's not my problem, and it doesn't cost me money.
Right.
So and they'll do marketing for you. So, and they even like doing the open houses. Dana's told me several times he prefers doing open houses with for sale by owner because he doesn't have the agent ever trying, kind of blocking him from doing his thing. He can talk loan up the whole. He can show the house real quick and just talk loans. So it's not quite as ideal as an agent in there, but I mean realistically, I'm sure some agents are great at the sales part and they really sell the house, and some agents don't. And if you got a really good agent, I'm sure it's great. But I've had really good luck and really liked working with loan officers just because it impacts my bottom line less.
Yeah, and he's kind of pre-qualifying the person right there in the house before they we find out.
And I know Dana real well, and I trust his pre-qual. And that's another thing I like. I like working with loan officers. I picked it up mostly from doing the builder side of stuff, because when you're doing building and you're doing production, you really, your timetables are really important in a way that aren't so much with traditional sales. So I really hate getting into a deal and having the buyer come in and having them have a pre-qual letter from another lender who I don't know, and it
Mhm.
doesn't really, you can have real problems if Dana tells me this person prequels. At the end of the day, Dana's trying to close a loan, but Dana's really on my side because I, by having several open houses and doing multiple projects, Dana's Dana's business is really more worried about me to some degree than the buyer, because he knows he's going to get more leads in the long run by making sure I'm happy. So he's not going to give give the buyer a pre-qual letter that's not accurate so that they get to lock the house in. He's not going to do that to me. He's going to give me the honest truth. They're pre-qualified, yes, or they're going to take 6 months to close, or they're going to take 3 months, whatever it's going to be. He's going to give me an honest answer, and I really like having that right away like that. It's really nice to have. So I really like having a solid loan officer on my team. Um, and another nice thing too is, so with Dana there, if I end up in a situation where the buyer doesn't come in with an agent. Dana happens to be a broker, which is great, but he just does loans. But he does have his broker's license. But we can close in 2 weeks, so we can close a FHA VA type loan and do the whole closing in 2 weeks if there's not an agent on the side, because we can really control the process. And we were able to do that with the last buyer on one of the other properties. Is he was the loan officer. He told me exactly what was going on. He told me exactly what the buyer needed from us to get to close. He said, look, the buyer can offer you a full price offer. I've seen his bank, I've seen what's going on in his financial situation. He
Mhm.
cannot give you any more money. Will you agree to pay for all the closing costs? I said,
Yeah, I remember that.
okay. I'm not sure I'm super excited about that. He said, look, you're gonna get a full priced offer instead of a less than full priced offer, and I can close in 2 to 3 weeks. We can make this happen, and we were able to close in 2 to 3 weeks, which is phenomenal because the other guy didn't. And part of the reason why we were willing to give him those closing costs is he didn't have an agent. So at the end of the day, it didn't cost me 2.5 points on the whole property to pay his agent. So I'm
That's
happy to
true.
pay 6 grand. I'm happy to pay 4 or 5 grand of his closing costs if I don't have to fork out 4 or 5 grand for an agent. So that's a trade-off I'm willing to make. And we were able to close in 2.5 weeks, and which is phenomenally quick because I know where everyone's at. I was able to give Dana everything he needed quickly, and we were able to really work together as a team. So I really like working with a loan officer. I highly recommend it if you're going to be doing sales. Um, they're not quite as focused on selling your house as an agent will be. You won't get quite as much marketing out of them. There's advantages to agents, certainly, but there's big advantages to loan officers. And another thing that's nice about having a loan officer when we work with like that is, he spends a lot of time smoozing with agents to get loans and to get endorsed. So he has a pretty ready access. He tells some of his agent friends, hey, I work with a couple of guys that do flips and so forth. And so if you come across deals that make sense, just send them to me. So he can kind of help us aggregate and bring deals to us as well, because he knows that if he helps bring us a deal, he's not looking at it as a chance to sell us. He's looking at it as a chance for him to do open houses and sell loans. So it gives you a lot of the advantages you get from working with an agent, but I don't end up seeing the bill. The buyers end up seeing the bill in their loan. It's for me, that's a good trade-off.
Right.
There are some disadvantages, but I find it very advantageous. I'd highly recommend it as a tool or a strategy. Find a really good lender, but you got to find a good one. Um, you know, I know Dana closes close to $1 million in loans a month, every month. He closes a lot of loans. So you don't want to work with you work with a so-so loan officer. It's even worse than working with a so-so agent. So if you're going to work with this way with a loan officer, they really got to be top notch on their game and know what they're doing and have a lot of years of experience. Dana does. So we've been very fortunate to work with him on this. So it's been fantastic.
Right, guys. So the way we do this is, Chris, our third partner, is a licensed agent. So he can put everything on the MLS. He gets it listed. We don't pay anything to list it. And then we offer 2.5% to a buyer's agent to bring in the
So
buyer.
we do have to still pay to list it. We just don't pay. We
We're
do
paying a
what's called
flat fee. Yeah.
we do a flat fee listing.
Right.
Uh,
So
So,
there's no
but it's $300, like
right.
250. So that's a big difference from where we sit. You know, why pay 2.5% on the whole property when I can get a flat fee listing for $250? I can put all my open houses and everything like that on there and slap it on Craigslist. And between those two, I can get plenty of traffic. Um, and when I do open houses, I either sit the open house or I have Dana sit the open house. And between the two of us, we can do open houses every weekend, for a couple
Right.
of if we have to. And it doesn't take up all my time because I have that advantage. So, sometimes I'm available, sometimes me and Chris are not available. We want to go on vacation, we want to do whatever we want to do. So that's Dana's a fantastic work with like that. He's happy to be out there because it helped. He's told me he closes at least 1 or 2 loans a month just from working open houses, and he gets better leads from working our open houses than he does with the agent because he doesn't have an agent in the middle distracting his clients potentially. So
Right.
it works
Right.
out it works out really well, and it really brings our cost of the whole process down. And
And
again, if you're working with a really top-notch loan officer, they usually have a broker's license, and so they can help steer you around potential issues, even if you aren't paying an agent to steer you around them. So when you go to like list your flat fee listing, you can talk to them a little bit about it, and they'll probably give you some advice on things not to say, or because we did it in this case, we did a significant remodel. We kind of wanted to put on there like, but you can't put brand new. So we asked what language should we put on there, and Dana was able to give us good legal, not legal advice, but give us agent style realtor advice on phrasing and language we can use, but we're not paying that 2 points up front to the agent. So I personally am a big fan of kind of the process we've worked out up here. Having tried it other ways before, I think this works really well. And it works out kind of a lot like what a builder has. We kind of have a preferred lender in a way. We basically tell people, you don't have to use our lender, but you have to pre-qualify with our lender. And that gives Dana a real good chance at earning the business, but it also makes sure that we know where we're going to get to our close at. We don't have any problems.
so what I was going to explain on one of the deals that you mentioned, explaining it to our viewers, is that because we offer that 2.5% to the agent who brings a buyer, and this guy happened to come into not this house but a previous house by himself, and he didn't have an agent with him, so Dana was able to do the loan, and so we did pay more of the closing costs towards this guy for the loan, but we really had no commissions to an agent on either side of the
Right.
deal, because we listed a flat fee listing, and the guy came in with no agent, and he was comfortable with Dana walking him through the loan because he felt there was some professional there, and it just worked out great that we were able to save the commission on that house.
Well, and we wouldn't have been able to close if he had come in with an agent, or we'd have trouble closing because he wanted a full price offer, but he had enough for the down payment. He didn't have extra money sitting around for the closing costs. So
Right.
we were able to take that commission that would have gone to the agent, pay off all of his closing costs, and get closed in 2 weeks.
Right.
And he was
Absolutely.
super happy. He invited us to a party at the house afterwards where he made lumpia. He was super excited about how quickly he got in the house. I mean, he was practically crying about it. So it was a really good process to be able to kind of do that combination there with Dana and the loan officer. Like I said, there's a licensed person there, a licensed professional there in that transaction to help coordinate that transaction. And so that's another thing that having a broker there kind of gives. It gives someone who comes in without an agent, even if they're a first-time buyer, which this guy was a first-time buyer, and he was comfortable enough with us, but also with Dana, that he didn't feel the need to bring in an agent to provide him safety. And so that
Mm-hmm.
allowed us to be more flexible in our pricing, more flexible in the offer. And again, the other thing is if a buyer had normally come in and with their own loan officer and said, hey, we need all the closing costs, we've had buyers that don't need that help. They're just asking for money. And
Right. Right.
so I don't have to sit there and argue and negotiate back and forth. I can really just go to Dana and go, Dana, what's going on? Is this legitimate? And Dana said, yeah, you need to do this to close this. And I go, okay, fine, no big deal, great. But
Right.
I don't have
Because
to be worried about it. I don't have to be concerned about it. He doesn't tell me any proprietary information, mind you. He just says,
right.
yes, they absolutely need you to do this to close this loan. Otherwise, you're going to have to wait 3 or 4 weeks for them to build up a cash pile, or save up money from the next paycheck or something. I mean, it's just giving me very vague information, but it gives me peace of mind that I'm not bickering or worrying or arguing. and I know what's going on. I know what the person really does need for me to close, and I can make it happen. So
Right. Yeah,
I'm a
because
good.
right, because usually an agent will say, "Oh, that person can't do it," but you don't really know specifically if they can afford the closing costs or not when you have an
No.
agent in the middle. So
Well,
that's a good
even if you
point.
have a loan officer in the middle, um, you know, you can't have you can't necessarily have a conversation. You just get that qualified letter, and you don't know anything else about it. So
Right.
you can say, and you can't. And again, they're licensed. They're not going to tell you anything about the other person's personal information. They will not tell you anything. You're not allowed to ask those questions.
Yeah.
But you can say, hey, look, they're asking for this. Is this a legitimate request? And they can tell you, yeah, it is. They really do need your help to do this. And it's nice to have kind of the full team and be able to close like that. I mean, we're working with Dana. We don't run into problems like we have when we have to work with an outside lenders. So, and I don't trust other people's qualifies, to be honest. I've got letters of qualification that I just don't haven't followed through. I can't get it closed. And when Dana tells me it's right, it's right. So I keep
Absolutely.
working him. And if I ever had a problem, I maybe would switch. But I like having a loan officer that I work with consistently enough to know when he tells me something, it's true. And I highly recommend to any investor that you find a good loan officer that you're comfortable with and get in that kind of relationship and kind of have an almost builder like relationship. You say, look, you're my pre-qual person. Um, Even if the person doesn't want to use you, I'm requiring them to pre-qual with you because I don't trust their pre-qual letter if it's not from you. And that it's made a world of difference in our closes. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So I'm going to turn off the screen share, and we've been on for about an hour. So I think when we bring Chris back on another week, we will talk about the numbers on this house. I know that we do have it listed for 647,
yes,
and we've spent quite a bit on the rehab. So maybe we can go over those numbers on a future hangout. But I
yes,
really want to thank you for coming in tonight and sharing with us all the things that you saw, because you've been there on site when they've done the house. And the other question I had was about the open house today. Did you get any feedback from any? Because it was just for agents. So did you get any
right.
feedback from any agents that
Well, it
came in?
wasn't just. I mean, it was for agents, but we put little signs out. So several of the neighbors came by to look at it as well and told us what it used to look like. And then one of the agents told us, because the Freeport that we're on is a somewhat busy street. And one of the neighbors told us, in my kitchen, I can hear that street. And I can hear the trains when they come by, a couple blocks over. And in your kitchen, I can't. You can't.
Okay.
And so the street doesn't feel busy when you're in there, which is nice. The big thing that we got, and this is something you can run into a lot when you're doing kind of significant rehab and you're trying to really up value. Unless you're really buying the property. I mean, you're going to buy the property. You're going to try to buy your property below market, but very seldom is anyone going to sell it far enough below market for you to really make money just bringing it up to market. You usually have to rehab a little bit nicer than the neighbor's house because the neighbor's house probably hasn't been touched in 20 or 30 years,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is. You can't just update it to the neighbor's quality and expect to really make money. You usually have to try to be pushing for one of the highest price points on that street at least, or that block or something. um, and so and we're going to run into this, but you do run into issues with kind of getting the comps. So we've had full price offers before on streets where you get a full price offer and the person goes, the the lender will hire their appraisal, and they'll get the
Mm-hmm.
appraiser, and the appraiser will go, well, a house 2 blocks over that's the same exact square footage and the details are the same as your house sold for X, so I can't give you more than $5,000 over that house. That doesn't matter that that house hasn't been touched in 15 years or
Mm-hmm.
whatever else is going on. And there's adjustments they make, but they're
Right.
not really taking into account the full picture. So you can have issues with that. And on this one, we're going to, because within a 2 mile radius, there's plenty of houses that are more expensive, and there's plenty of houses with similar footprint. But on our street, we're going to be the largest single story house you're really going to find. A lady nearby came by and said her house is 1,400 square feet on 2 stories. Ours is somewhere over 1,600, probably closer to 1750. Um, there's not everything else on that street is 1,200, 1,900 square feet. So you don't really have a good straight up comparison comp. Even if you did, there are 2 1s and 3 1s. There's not a lot of 3 2.5s. The ones that are, if they've been updated at all, they're not fully updated. Their electrical is still aluminum or whatever, super old. The plumbing's super
Old
old.
plumbing, yeah.
So we've got new plumbing, new roof, new windows. We got brand new. This is a brand new
Everything.
house in a lot of ways, but we
Yeah.
don't have any other houses of real comparison to make. There's houses, but they're 2 miles away and they're right next to a really nice park, and those houses go for 750. So the house with the same footprint and the same update goes for 750, but it's a mile and a half away and it's next to a park, and you know it's in a nicer area. Not nicer significantly because it's in the same neighborhood, but it's on a slightly less busy street. It's right next to a park. It's not a great comparison. But if you're looking on your own street or with the next street up or down, you're not going to see anything above 500 because everything's smaller. So we're going to have some fighting issues with our appraisal, I think. And one of the things we're doing to help combat that is we're getting an appraisal ahead of time by
Okay.
somebody else, so that when the lender comes in with an appraisal, if their appraisal is low and the lender's appraisal is more prone to put, if we hire an appraiser, they're more prone, for whatever reason, to go closer to the numbers we request. And when they're dealing with the lender, they're going to err on the side of safety.
Oh
because,
yeah.
because when if they're going to get hired again by that lender, they want to get hired again by that lender, and they don't want to err on the side of high. They want to be trustworthy. So
Yeah.
they're going to go safer just by definition. The lender's hire is going to be safer than my hire. So we're going to pay the $300. We're going to have someone come out and give an honest opinion. Obviously, they're going to lean a little bit higher, but that doesn't mean they're being dishonest. But when the lender's appraisal comes in low, we can take our appraiser and go, we already had an appraisal. It said this. And
Right.
we may not, we're going to push back. We may not get the full, we're going to see what we get. But at least we're prepared. We're under and agents have told us this too. They said, this is a beautiful house. We had 2 agents say this. It's a beautiful house. It's gorgeous. You're probably going to get a full priced offer. And then the appraisal is probably going to come in low.
Right. People want it, but yeah.
Right. But that said, we've got 2 advantages here. So one is in a higher end market, which we weren't in the other areas. These people come in with more money down. So if the appraisal comes in a little low and they make a full priced offer, there's a good chance they can make up. I mean, depending on what happens, they may not be able to. They may not want to make up the full amount,
but
they're probably able to.
Mm-hmm.
So we might have a negotiation or wiggle room. Secondarily, nicer neighborhood, more sophisticated buyers, more money. They're more likely to come in without an agent. In a neighborhood with first-time home buyers and people who haven't bought 3 or 4 homes or don't know what they're doing as much, they're much more likely to bring an agent. So if someone comes in without an agent and the appraisal's low, that gives us some wiggle room as well. We don't have to pay the commission. So we're kind of crossing our fingers on a buyer with a lot more cash. And that's the other thing too. In this neighborhood, is people come in and buy these homes at this price range all cash. Some of the people are older and they just sold their house and they buy the thing all cash. So if we get an all cash offer,
then it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
No appraisal.
But we want to be prepared. So part of our preparation is to make sure that, one, we have our own appraisal. And that's another thing too, is when you have 2 appraisals, we can look at the appraisal from the lender and go, okay, you made this adjustment and our other appraiser made that adjustment for the same thing. We think your adjustment is wrong.
Right.
You use that comp. Our appraiser preferred that comp. Why did you choose that comp over that one? So it gives us a straight comparison. We can put the 2 next to each other and go, this is what you did different to arrive at this different number. We don't agree with you. Our other appraiser said this, and you're probably not going to get all of the adjustments, but if you push back hard enough, there's a good chance at getting a couple of them adjusted. And the lender won't accept your appraisal. They're going to take their own
absolutely.
one. Right. But you can come in with your appraisal and say, look, your appraiser made a mistake. He made an error here and here and here, and here you go. This is, and if he comes back and maybe he appraises it for 630, and we can get it back up to 635. That's $5,000. That's worth paying $300 to be able to make a push move on their appraisal before $500, $4 or $5,000. So that's one of the things where we're at the end with the budget. And you kind of go, well, do I want to spend $300? No, I don't really want to spend the $300. I'd rather pocket it. But if I can make an adjustment to our end sales price of a couple of grand, because it doesn't take much for pushback on an appraisal to move it $2 or $3 when you're talking going to be a
Right.
$60,000 house.
Right.
So at that point, it's really worth it to have this appraisal that says, oh yeah, your house is worth 700. And they go, oh, well, your house is only worth 630. Well, our other appraisal says this. Can you adjust up to 640?
Yeah.
Sure, that's 10 grand. I mean, it doesn't take much, so it becomes really worth the expenditure. I wouldn't do this on a $250,000 house, but I'd also be a lot more concerned because they're not gonna have the down payment, and they're less likely to come in with without an agent. So, but it's one of the advantages of doing kind of the higher end, nicer homes is you can get all cash offers. You can get people without agents, and your pushback, if you push back on the appraisal, makes a bigger impact. So
Absolutely. That's great. That's great.
I'll just say we've done this before, that on not the last house, but the house before that. We had rehabbed the two houses next to each other.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
We tried to get a higher dollar sale amount on the house next door, and we got a full priced offer, and it was like 10 grand more than the house we had sold next door. And the appraisal said, these are the same house. They're 3 months apart. I can't give you a higher value. And we pushed back. We said, yeah, but we pushed back on in their case. We said, look, that was priced for a quick sale, and you missed these items, and we made some push and some adjustment, and we got it boosted from 220 to 223, which isn't huge. It's not where we wanted to be at 229, but that's $3,000 more that they appraised our house for, just because we pushed back and we had the appraisal from the last house showing some adjustments that were different than their adjustments, and that really, so $300 for 3 grand is totally worth the expenditure. And that's not on a nice house. That's on a cheap $200,000 house.
Right. So the lesson there is, number one, we had two houses on the same street.
Yeah,
and if you're going to do that, rehab them both the same, because we put more money into the second house thinking, well, we'll make more money on it. And they were the other thing about it is they were a model match. They were the exact same layout, and they're being done, and the appraiser even said, they're being done by the same rehabbers. So of course it should be worth the same, because you guys are the same company.
Well, and in that one of the problems was there was a few expenditures that were different between the two houses that we actually bought it for slightly less, but we had to spend slightly more. There was a whole root issue with the back patio that we couldn't see when we bought it because it was covered with ivy. And when we pulled the ivy off, we thought this patio slab was all cracked and broken. We had to pull this whole patio out. So that cost us several grand more than we were expecting to. And we basically said, okay, let's try to make up for that. We're in an upward trending market. The market had gone up since we bought it. And the problem nowadays is even if the market moves, your appraiser doesn't, because they're a lot more tied to comps than they used to be. They're really nitpicking on the comps in a way that they didn't used to be. So you got to be careful, especially when you're doing the kind of thing where you're buying on the edge of a nice neighborhood and you're going, okay, well, this is the edge of a nice neighborhood. Let's do this. There's comps within 2 miles that easily show this value. Yeah, there's comps within 2 miles, but they're going to pay the most attention to the comps within 100 yards.
Blocks. Yeah.
If they can get a comp within 200 yards, it's very similar in size and shape to your house. They'll ignore the house a mile and a half away. That's a better comparison in terms of how well it's rehabbed and done. And they'll go to the house 2 blocks, 2 houses down. That's the same model, but not rehabbed at all, and go, oh, that's a good comp. And that does happen. So you've got to be careful when you are on the edge of a nice neighborhood and you're kind of trying to get that nice neighborhood price by putting a house that's on the edge up, and you're hoping to kind of get that gentrification moving in there. You got to be a little careful with that nowadays. So that's something we've kind of picked up over time up here, and especially in places like Sacramento that are patchy. A lot of Southern California or newer parts of the state, like even in Sacramento, if you go up towards Roseville or Rockland, you don't have the patchiness. There's not a lot of 1920s houses next to new houses. There's not a lot of old neighborhoods where some parts are really nice and the rest, it hasn't had time to do that.
A complete 1960 subdivision, and then there's a lot of comps the same.
Right. And so there's older parts of town in Southern California, but in places like Sacramento or San Francisco where lots of it are just old, you got to be really careful, and you got to pay attention to the comps when you're buying. Even if you know how much the house should be worth, like our comp for Caramay, I guarantee you other houses on that street have the same price per square foot, but they're not really a good match. And so it's gonna be funky when we're dealing with that appraisal. So that's just one of the things you gotta kind of learn as you go.
Absolutely. All right. So thank you, David, for coming and joining us tonight. And I know our other partner, Chris, is sick. So we're going to bring him back maybe in a few weeks when we have some more ideas about our sales and kind of go over the numbers on this property and see how much money we made. That's the bottom line. It's what kind of profit are we going to get from the house? So,
and hopefully by then we'll have an offer or two.
Absolutely.
And one of the things to remember too, though, is sometimes there's value, even if you don't make as much money as you'd like. There's value when you're developing a business and getting things done. And I think that's something that I people skip a lot of times. There's a value in having, if you do 10 plus houses, when you've got a certain portfolio, you're looked at different. You can start getting revolving loans from banks and things like that. You can't get with 3 or 4 or 5. You've got to hit 5, 10, 15 houses, and you've got to stay in the game. So
track record.
Right. You need a track record. The other thing is certain houses look better for raising money than other houses. We've had several of our houses which made good money, but investors might not appreciate them as much as this one. So, certain houses are a business card house. This is how you sell yourself and market yourself. So sometimes it's important to do projects like that, even if they're not as profitable as you would maybe like them to be, or maybe not as profitable as splitting the money up into 3 or 4 different properties. That would be, there's a value in doing something kind of big. There's also a value in showing that you can do a range of activities. So we can do a low end, we can do a medium, we can do a high end house. We have the design skills and we know what we're doing well enough to do some of these things. We don't just have to, do lipstick on a pig. We can do a whole addition. We can rearrange the layout and change it from the studs back, as well as build up and hire an architect and go through planning and go through. So that's something that we're developing and growing that for our team. It's not just a question, but the money is important too. Obviously, you got to make money. But I just want to throw that out to people that are watching to remember the importance of developing, your resume. Basically, we're developing our resume, and our marketing materials, and then we, every property we do, we get that, but some are worth more in that sense. And this is one of those ones. It's in a nice neighborhood. It's a neighborhood people pay attention to. It's a neighborhood people know. And this is something we'll be able to point at for a long time. That is not necessarily the case for some of the other projects we do.
Absolutely. All right. So in a few weeks, guys, we'll be bringing Chris back on, and we'll talk a little bit more about the numbers. He's really the design guy. So we were kind of going through what he had done on the pictures, but he's the one who is really specific about selecting those items and the colors and how things go together.
He spends a lot of time making sure he's talking to vendors, preferably if he can find someone who's bringing stuff over direct from China or whatever it is, and not a lot of middle people. That's what we try to do. It's not always easy. They don't always like to deal. We don't necessarily cover enough volume in a year for them to want to deal with us normally. So it takes some work sometimes to get a really good vendor for cheap cabinets, or to find, tile, or instead of buying already cut granite, you buy the granite and have your guys cut it in the garage. I mean, there's
can be
sometimes
done.
That's cheaper. A lot of people don't want to sell you uncut granite.
Yeah.
You may have to get a specialized contractor to work with you just so you can buy the uncut granite, but that can save you quite a bit of money. So,
all right, we'll bring Chris back on and go into some more of those details. But I want to thank everyone for joining me tonight. Go ahead and look at what I put on the right. Is if you click on the link to the right with investor resources, and if you want to know the kind of phone system we use, some of the forms that we use, those are all there on that page. Links to different resources on the web and tools and software analysis and things like that.
Did you put Rike on there for project management?
I do have Rike on there as well. We use Rike to keep track because our team is split. I'm in San Diego. Chris and David are in Sacramento. So we use Rike to organize all these rehabs. So we may be having 3 or 4 rehabs going on at once. And if one of them has a question of how much money did we use on the second loan, they just look it up on Rike because it's all posted on there. And I can look at the rehab budget because David would post that up. If Chris has a question, so we keep everything on Rike, and that's our cloud office is really everything's on Rike.
And it's also great for our project management because we can, when we're in the middle of a closing, we can each kind of say, oh, we need these 3 tasks. This is who they're for. And then when you're done with the task, you click on it and it goes done. And you can really track, yeah, I got my task done. Yes, it was done. I don't have to worry about it anymore. I didn't call you and tell you. I posted on Reiki. You know the task. And
I get notified in my email that it was done. Yeah.
Right. And when I want to go find, maybe their task was to post certain things, or make sure that we have this document. Okay, now I can see a copy of the document and I can see the task was done, and it makes it really easy to figure out. Another thing that happens a lot with these projects is after the fact, 3 months later, you've got a question about it. You file your taxes and you want to know something, and you don't really remember what you did on a certain day or what got done, or in some cases you got to pay guys cash for certain things. You get a better deal with some of these guys, and some of these guys, they're not sophisticated enough to not operate on cash. You have to pay them cash. Sometimes it can be hard to remember when you're looking back at a bank statement from 3 months ago. You go, okay, I've got a $300 bank statement for a withdrawal, and I paid cash for something. What was going on that week that I might have paid cash for? And there's no way to tell unless you go back through your Reich and you can look at the project management, and you kind of go, oh, that week I was supposed to do this and who's supposed to do that. That's probably what I paid cash for. I mean, it can really kind of help you.
Right. And you can
like that after the fact.
And you can upload the invoices and everything like that there. Also on this page, if you follow these links, and if you're not watching the Webinar Jam replay and you're watching on YouTube, I'll just let you know it's on wisewealthuniversity.com, which is right down there below me, and .com/resources. Resources is plural. So just go to wisewealthuniversity.com/resources, and you'll see that page. And I have a summary sheet that I've made up for our projects. And the summary sheet has the buyer's agent, selling agent, the seller's information, the escrow officer, the escrow phone number. So if you need to make a and also the insurance, who's doing the insurance policy. So it's a summary sheet for the property. It's 1 page and has everything that you need to tell you about that property. So that's free. It's ours. You're welcome to go download it. So go ahead and get that off the page as well. So I want to close out here now and thank everyone for coming tonight and joining. And thank you to my Periscope viewers. I hope you were able to listen to the show. And this will be up on YouTube. There's a playlist on Wise Wealth University, and all the Hangouts are on the playlist. Seriously, if you are starting in real estate education and you really don't know where to start, I started last October doing these weekly Hangouts. And if you started on that playlist and went through the whole thing, you'd have a complete course that people pay $5 grand for, or $2 grand whenever they go to a seminar. And it's all there laid out for you. How to find properties, rehab them, sell them, fix them, the paperwork to do, how to do the letters, all of the marketing. It's all there in your weekly Hangout. So take advantage of that resource before I put it into a course, but it's all there for free on YouTube right now. So thank you, everyone, and I will be seeing you next week. Please join us for the broadcast. Good night, everyone.
Are the kids messing